Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
ElectionZilla 2016 on the SHR Media Network.
And welcome to ElectionZilla 2016 on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It will be a long evening. This is kind of like the warm-up show. You're going to have the bloviating Zeppelin, Sackhead Clinton and I, all in studio here.
Is it kind of like the warm-up show, or is it in fact?
It is the warm-up show.
Yes.
If you want to join the chat, it's at shrmedia.com.
I should like to tell everyone that as the designated drug supplier, I brought all of you methamphetamine.
Perfect.
It couldn't get any better than
Or
that.
as I like to call it, coffee.
Right, I prefer to call it...
Tomato.
Right, I prefer to call it caffeine. You may call it methamphetamine. Good news is we're in California, so...
Right.
Who
cares? That's right. Yeah, hell, everything's legal.
We'll be joined shortly by Jeff Donetz of The Lid to talk about the election. He'll join us for a little bit, and then we'll bow out at 6 Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. For the exceptional one, while we reset, get everything in motion for the big election night special, it is now 8:02 on the East Coast, and we already have some results coming in. Earlier in the evening, Kentucky, Indiana, and South Carolina called for Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton took Vermont. No real shocks there at all.
She took Illinois as well.
Okay, so she did
and Massachusetts.
She took Illinois and Massachusetts. Neither one a shock. Both were anticipated to go that way. Illinois and Mass, both very...
Okay, here I'm going to weigh in right now. California, I don't think it's going for Trump.
But here's the thing. Nothing has been counted yet.
Right.
Right?
I mean, this is all just suggestion at this point. And it really is going to... It depends. I mean, the New York Times at 7:01 was calling states with early results. And I think there's going to be a lot of down to the wire. Look, early reports that I was hearing on the ground out of Florida is that Trump had a very strong showing. Also, I want to say in Ohio as well. So,
yep.
Until it comes out or until it's beyond a reasonable doubt, so to speak, which that legal term may be important later on, depending on what gets contested and what doesn't. But right now, we are just monitoring. Danny Butcher is telling me in the chat room that Trump took Indiana, Hillary took Illinois.
New Jersey.
She also took New Jersey, D.C., Delaware, and Maryland, all going to the Clinton column.
That's a shock.
Yeah, none of that's really...
I'm really surprised by those.
Well, especially D.C. I was...
Right. Especially with the exceptional conservative one there. Obviously, the exceptional one failed to get the ground game out.
Right. And you know what? When we talk to him later on, we're going to have to straighten him out on some things.
Yes.
New Hampshire, Florida, and Pennsylvania, all too early to call. Those are the three big ones out of the East Coast. Well, actually, there's a couple big ones out of the East Coast, but those are the three that are really going to carry a lot of electoral votes. All three were not projected to be swing states until contested or close until last week. Mm-hmm. Obviously, all three have a tendency to be swing states and very, very important states. I've also heard Michigan has a really good turnout for Trump, which is kind of a shock to the left.
Well, that's going to be huge because I'll tell you, Clinton right now is ahead in North Carolina. So if she flips those 15 electoral votes, Trump's going to need to flip
a couple
Michigan
others
or something like that, which would be 16.
Right.
So here's the way it stands right now for states that have been called.
Okay.
These are states that Fox News has called. Trump has 58 electoral votes, Clinton with 44, with the race that's been close so far.
68 to 67, they just updated.
So
just this second they updated.
Do we know who they called?
Trump is going to win Missouri, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Tennessee.
Yep, I got all those. And Clinton has Vermont, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and D.C. Thank you for turning the TV down. I don't know what was going on with that.
I love that it's me on this one.
No, I wasn't talking to you. I didn't say who I was talking to about it. I just thought it was interesting.
If this is how this night is going to go, because I'm literally sitting here hitting every button trying to figure out
exactly, and that's what happens
in
when
the
you start
hell
hitting every
is
button.
going on.
So this is with Trump with Oklahoma, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and West Virginia.
Yes.
Gives him 58. So I don't know what the 68 was.
67.
So I don't know what the 67 came from. They must have called. Did they call Alabama?
Rhode Island just got called for Hillary.
Shocker.
And that's where we're at right now. So I'll update it as we get it. Pundit Press, Danny Butcher sent me a message. In Florida, she's up about 2.4% with 73% total counted.
In North Carolina?
No, that's going to be in Florida.
Who's ahead?
Hillary. Ohio, she's up an 11-point lead, but there's only 12% counted. North Carolina with 36% of the vote. Clinton's up by 6%. So that's where it stands right now. No real surprises on the table just yet.
That's not good.
What, that there's no real surprises?
Well, no, that she's up in Florida and Ohio.
Yeah.
Yes, bad.
2.4%.
Yeah, but what districts are those?
Well, and that's what I don't have in front of me right now. So,
and same with her being up right now in Ohio as well.
Yeah, but Ohio is very, very early, and Ohio takes a long time for votes to come in, historically.
So Clinton right now is up by 0.6%.
Yes.
Is what they just showed in Florida.
Okay, so it's narrowed down to 0.6%. So that 2%...
According to Fox.
That 2% went away pretty quick.
0.7%, sorry, 48.9 to 48.2.
Okay, so 0.7%. So that closed up pretty quickly in the last 20 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. We know that she's going to take all the traditional blue states. California is going to be, Oregon's going to go,
Trump.
Washington's going to go.
Yeah.
You can get rid of essentially the entire West Coast.
Pretty much.
If it touches the Pacific Ocean.
All right, there we go. My job is done. Thank you very much for showing up tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Really appreciate you listening.
You could take off the West and East Coasts and be just fine.
Well, some of the East Coast, most of the East Coast. Maine's still the big one that we're looking out of. Ohio, Ohio's a big deal. Obviously, he needs that. But with only 12% of the vote, it's still really early to even look at.
Even if he doesn't take Florida, there is a way he can make up those electoral votes.
Yeah, but you need surprises, right? We talked about that last Wednesday.
So you need to flip Pennsylvania and like Wisconsin or something like that. So
or Michigan.
Michigan. That's 16 votes. So he could make up the votes missing from Florida. It's just very, very difficult to do.
Right.
So right now, as it stands, Clinton with 48 electoral votes, Trump with 67, because they called South Carolina for him.
One of the biggest polls that came out early, the exit polls, Politico asked a question, what do you look for in a leader? And the overwhelming majority said strength. Marco Rubio wins re-election in Florida, I'm being told.
I just heard that on the way over, yes. So
we hold that Senate seat. So I thought that was kind of important, that strength out of a leader being very important on people's minds. Exit polls are interesting, but I don't think they tell enough of the story. And I've said that time and again. You can start to maybe push a direction, but it's really hard to kind of decide which way it's going to go off exit polls. I'm a big believer that, and they've added North Carolina and Ohio both too early to call.
Which is surprising.
At this point. So it looks like he may be closing some grounds there, which is really amazing considering 15 minutes ago we were talking about, and now all of a sudden he's making up points. And like you brought up, it has to do with districts, right?
Yes.
If the smallest districts are all reporting in, and she has the lead. That could be undone by one district, one county, depending on how they split up their vote. And we've seen that before.
Like, that'd be amazing if that's the big liberal county that she's only up 0.7.
Right.
That would be awesome.
And we're going to ask Carrie about that when she calls in, because she's down in North Carolina. She's been all over North Carolina in the polls today, just covering that, and she's doing our social media tonight, so we're pretty excited about that. So far, no big surprises. Clint, do you have any revelations?
You know what would be amazing to me?
Yes.
This would be so amazing, is if the electoral map is split away where nobody has 270 and everybody has to wait an additional 3 hours for Hawaii to be counted.
Yeah, but
That would be PSH all over the place.
Yes.
That would be so amazing.
But you know as well as I do, that would actually be bad for conservatives because Hawaii's going to go blue.
Right.
So I hope that doesn't happen.
Right. And the race is tied. It's 68-67 with Clinton with Illinois. Yeah.
And I'm trying to start.
It's going to be one of those races.
Yeah. Oh no, this is
Potentially.
I
I remember the Romney where we were like, oh, this is going to be close. And then by like 6:30, we were like, okay, let's go to dinner.
Who wants to go to the airport and drop somebody off?
That was like when we started.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't matter. Do you, gosh, it's so amazing to me.
I don't want to make any predictions. I really don't. The polling and everything is so close. Everything's within the margin of error.
Yeah.
It's certainly an interesting race to watch. And, we can talk about the what's going to happen with the Congress. We have Senate races that we're watching tonight, too, which is going to be another big one to kind of follow along and see how those seats are getting called.
Yeah, I was actually trying to pull up, as you were talking, pull up some senatorial races. Out of North Carolina, Deborah Ross, the Democrat, is leading in North Carolina as we speak for a Senate. Missouri, the polls are closed, but no results. New Hampshire, the Democrat Maggie Hassan leads. Indiana, Todd Young is leading. Pennsylvania is closed, no responses. Nevada, we won't hear anything for another 2 hours on that. And then Wisconsin, we won't hear anything for about 45 minutes. So that gets us through the senatorial. And as of right now, in order to reach the 51 majority, the Republicans have to get 35 more. So we'll see how that goes. The Democrats need 40 to pull out the majority. Over in the House, let's look down some House numbers here because there's going to be a lot of them.
Look,
no, not getting anything.
I don't think they're going to. I really don't think they're going to flip the House. I mean, it's such a long shot.
Yeah, no, I didn't either, but
the Senate is in play. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, but it is in play.
I think it'll be close. I listen, at this point, can we honestly say that anything's an absolute in everything that's gone on with this so far? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Marco Rubio won Florida.
All right, we can say that's an absolute, beating Murphy. A couple of the gubernatorial elections, too, that I've definitely been watching. So far we have Delaware, John Carney won. We kind of figured that was going to happen. Indiana with 36%. Eric Holcomb is leading. He's the Republican. New Hampshire, Colin Van Oster, the Democrats, leads, but only 7% reporting at this time. North Carolina, Roy Cooper, the Democrat, leads at 6%. West Virginia, Jim Justice is leading with just 1% reporting. And Vermont, 11% reporting. You have Phil Scott, the Republican, leading there.
This just in, 1 point went to Donald Trump, 1 electoral vote. Now it's Donald Trump 40, Hillary Clinton 44.
44. We're up to 68 and 67. So who did that point come from?
I don't know. I'm just watching it live.
Okay.
So right now, 44-40.
Okay. On
Sounds
what
like a rifle.
on what network you have that on? Because And again, this is why
there's so many different networks.
Right,
that call
because
different
depending
races.
on who you're covering right now,
Fox has it 68, 67.
Yeah.
Clinton.
Well, then guess what? Politico is way the hell behind.
It's in their name.
Jersey Joe in the chat room at shrmedia.com says he suspects that Texas might go blue tonight. That would be the biggest shock.
You know what would be amazing is if Texas went blue and California went red. I would mic drop and walk out of the studio.
Who has the greatest number of electors? I'll take it.
California.
So then, I like your thought.
Yeah. California.
Yeah, no, I'll trade it.
Right.
Short term. Now, here's the thing. By saying I'll trade it, I just lost every friend I've ever had in Texas. and actually, most of them can hurt me. So it makes me a little nervous now that we said that. But again, so you have Politico, you have Fox. I'm sure CNN showing something.
I'm sure
slightly
CNN
different.
has Hillary like
Hillary already has 452
Right.
electoral votes.
Right.
Which is pretty impressive.
Which is
actually.
very impressive. She has like 627, I think, which is weird. There's not even that many, so I don't know how they did that.
They were also counting
I think
Guam.
they were counting Russia,
Guam, and then
and North Korea.
the Maldives, just because.
Right, because Little Kim called in. As a matter of fact, I think you have the actual voice recording of Little Kim when he called in and said, I think, go ahead, play
I don't have it.
Yeah, hang
I don't have it right now.
Hello.
Danny Butcher just said Trump won Tennessee.
So Trump wins Tennessee. Jeff Donetz from the Lids reporting New Hampshire vote has not been confirmed yet. So that's kind of interesting. It was tight to call in New Hampshire. We've been talking about that for the last few days. It really got well within the margin of error. And I can tell you...
Which is weird because that is a blue state.
Well, yes and no. And we've talked about this before. The vast majority of New Hampshire was red for years. It wasn't until the massholes came up and invaded southern New Hampshire and made some changes.
Right, real good.
I didn't say I did.
No, you invaded California, which I love because you're trying to turn this state red. And I don't mean
brother-in-law,
that in a violent blood way at all.
My brother-in-law said he showed up this morning and the lines were out the door in New Hampshire. It took him forever to get in a vote. You heard that in a lot of different places. I will have to say my own voting experience this morning, and I remember during the primaries I had some issues, but I have to give Yolo County, California, a lot of credit. It was smooth. There was zero issues. The different set of poll workers in the primaries, because I was watching, they were answering questions that I could hear very, very eloquently and very, very intelligent. There was no polling issues. I was in and out in 8 minutes. So it was really good to see that issues that were there prior have all of a sudden, they did shore up. And that made
And
me
how
happy.
did you vote? Did you have a machine?
No, voted by paper. I will not vote on a machine.
The long, thin ballot like that?
It looked like a scroll.
Good.
Now, I actually heard a story out of Pennsylvania, and I have not been able to confirm this, where the voting machines, people were hitting Trump, and they were flipping to Hillary Clinton.
I've heard that in several different outlets.
And who knows how many
That's
of these machines.
All over the internet. That's all over Twitter with video.
And who knows how many of these have actually been counted for Hill Dog?
No, they won't be counted yet. How many of them went through without somebody noticing?
No, that's what I meant.
Right.
Because they'll be counted. If they go
They
through
will
the
be
machine,
counted if you
they'll be
don't
counted.
verify.
Correct.
And you have a lot of older people, and even some of the younger people who just assume that technology will do the right thing and walk away. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. And right now, we will be blessed with the presence of the editor of The Lid, my good friend Jeff Donetz. Jeff? And it wasn't there. Okay.
He put a lid on that call, didn't he?
But to go back to that, you do have people that have too much faith in technology and just make assumptions and walk away. And I think that's one of the scariest things that can happen.
If you go to Twitter, you go to any sort of social media right now, you can. The internet is rife with videos live showing people voting and the machines not indicating what the people are pushing.
Right.
But not one time have I seen anything that indicates that a Hillary is going to a Donald Trump.
Well, in Pennsylvania, a lot of people are reporting that was happening. Jeff, are you with us?
Yeah, listen, I just wanted to tell you, the moon base has been, Newt Gingrich won the moon base.
Editor-in-chief of The Lid, Jeff joins us right now. Hey,
that was his big thing last time?
Yes.
And so far, Karl Rove has not yet awarded Ohio in 2012 to Barack Obama.
He's still working on that, huh?
He's holding his mud.
Still working.
Good for him.
Hey, Jeff, you've been watching all day. Obviously, you're there on the east side of the country. You're starting to see the returns. You're seeing a lot of the information I have. What's your thoughts so far?
Everything's really too close to call. I mean, the only one in my mind that looks bad right now, if you look at the key counties, which, thanks to my friend Ed Morrissey, I have a list of because of his book. But in Ohio's not looking great.
Yeah,
believe it or not.
There are some returns in Ohio. I haven't seen Ontario come back, and that's usually the big bellwether.
The big bellwether, though, in North Carolina is awful. Wake County?
Yes.
Okay, it's about 65% returns, and Hillary has about 60%.
Okay.
Now, it could be... Now, they had to extend voting in North Carolina.
Right.
In a couple of counties. So it could be all the Republican voters are using the right bathroom.
Well, and it is... That could be very confusing for a lot of people out there.
No, but right now, anything that's been called or close to being called, there's no surprises.
Yeah, nothing has been crazy as of yet. I'm looking at a couple different websites on Ohio. It doesn't give me the percentage that's reported, but it has Hillary Clinton up by less than 13,000 votes.
No, I can tell you the percentage that's reported. Wait, to get my mouse.
Gary Johnson took 38,744 in Ohio.
What's interesting is that the people who made up the decision last minute, about 10% of them went to Gary Johnson.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting to see who that splits out. Are those the left supporters from Bernie who left the Hillary camp to go support the Johnson?
Actually, I think it's the people who like politicians who talk with their tongue out.
I have to give him, though, the best...
That was the weirdest video I'd ever seen.
I have to give him the best presidential candidate appearance is when he had the fake heart attack on television.
Oh, I missed that one.
Oh, it was amazing. He dropped to the ground. He was just as his... I don't even know who he... I just saw the clip briefly. He was debating somebody, and halfway through their speech, he just had this fake heart attack and was rolling on the ground and interrupted their whole speech with it. It was absolutely out of this world scary. It was funny, though.
And in Ohio, it's a little over 15% reported, and it's Hillary Clinton has 130,000 lead, but like I said, that's only about 15%.
Yeah,
so there's plenty of.
And as we saw, North Carolina went 45 minutes ago from being 2-point-something% to 0.7%. So, like we said earlier, it's too early. I want to sit here and be able to tell you that a lot of changes are possible and a lot of results are flying in at us left and right. But
they are. Dan Butcher in chat says the Senate battle. The Democrats have the first pickup of the night. The Associated Press projects the Democrat Tammy Duckworth to beat incumbent Republican Mark Kirk
in Illinois
for the seat once held by Barack Obama.
Yeah, I'm not shocked by that. And
that was expected.
Yeah, that really didn't bother me. I mean, the result bothers me just because we lose. But it doesn't necessarily bother me because that was seen coming. It was also Duckworth really put on a strong campaign at the end, and the incumbent kind of blew himself in the foot a bunch of time. He made a really horrible statement that I'm sure just sank him about her history and her family and all the other stuff. Meanwhile, she's a veteran.
Yeah.
You know,
He's
by
a
all
disabled
accounts,
veteran.
yeah, and by all accounts, outside of politics, seems to be a very decent individual. And
Right.
he went low and absolutely had no reason to go low, because if he just had it, I mean, she was a very debatable individual. And if he went that route with that, if he actually just debated her, I think he would have fared much better. Mm-hmm. But he kept kind of trying to be funny with her in this weird kind of sarcasm but insulting sort of way, and it blew up. And it was almost like he was trying to be Trump with Hillary, only as
She's
I put
nice.
right I put in one of my posts this week on why Trump is kind of the candidate that we needed versus the candidate that we necessarily wanted. Was if it was anyone else but Hillary, Trump wouldn't have done so well, but because we needed somebody who could take on the media, somebody to take on Hillary, somebody to take on the left, he did a better job.
So, and you know, Todd Young is projected to
Todd
win.
Young just got called in Indiana. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Roy Blunt is down a little bit in Missouri right now, and he's the
But that's early.
It's early. It's early. I don't like to see I like it when a horse out of the gate just goes and like doesn't like.
No.
I like it when my baseball team goes up 27 runs in the first inning and then keeps adding
Right.
onto that.
And then
that's
you
the
can
kind
eat
of
food
fan
the
I
whole
am.
time.
Right. Then you can just sit back and chow on some snacks and just be
Right.
happy.
Yeah.
Well,
This-
you know what
this-
you learn from Indiana? It helps when you live in the state you're running in.
Yeah.
Because Evan
Yeah.
Bayh didn't even own a house.
Right. Well, you know, it's kind of an important thing. If you, all you young politicians out there who may be looking for some sound advice in future runnings, if you are going to run in a state, make sure you have a house there, or at least an address.
Or like had coffee there.
But Blumenthal won re-election in Connecticut, and he hasn't been back to Vietnam in a long time.
Well, I mean, we could also start talking about John Kerry in Massachusetts and the Kennedys and a bunch of other ones. Just looking over at Fox real quick, they're still calling Pennsylvania, Florida, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Ohio. Too
close
early
to
to call. Too early.
It's going to be a long night, especially North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania.
Danny Butcher of Pundit Press is projecting Trump to win Alabama at this time. So Trump to win
Makes
Alabama.
sense.
Yeah, again, not a
That puts
shock.
him at 76.
He's also reporting out of Florida. Trump has a slight lead, 61% reporting, 48.6 to 48.4.
What?
Georgia, Mr. Trump has a very large lead.
That's not a shock. Are we going to call Georgia?
They haven't called it
But he
yet.
has 70% of the vote. Well, and we were talking, too, because there were some rumblings that Georgia may not go as strong initially. North Carolina, Clinton has 51 to 45, but that's only with 6% reporting. New Hampshire,
Right.
54 to 40 with 7%. And Ohio.
And you mentioned before the Missouri Senate election, that's only 0.3% reporting.
Yeah, that's only 0.3. So, Virginia,
Plenty
Trump
of
has a
room there.
10-point lead. Virginia, Trump has a 10-point lead, 52.2 to 42.9 with 41%. Let's see. Real Clear Politics is showing Hillary 51 to Trump 45. Gary Johnson took 2% of that vote. That's actually more than I was kind of shocked. So it's still all over the
Well,
board.
that's because he finally learned how to spell Aleppo.
Well, but he still doesn't know where it is, does he? He may know how to spell it, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Polls just closed in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah, you know, the real, like I said, the ones that you really got to keep an eye on is he's got to win Florida. If he doesn't win Florida, he's got to win Michigan. He's got to win Pennsylvania and Ohio, and he's got to win that one electoral vote in New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's crazy. In Florida, Fox News is reporting right now, 91% in.
91% in. He's got 0.8%
in Florida. That's
hopefully Broward County is already included in that.
It was called for
Al Gore.
For a global warming boy.
Yes, Al Gore. I went to the internet and I stole Florida.
Right.
But that's with 91%. That's a slobber knocker. And maybe BZ could fact check this.
That's a what?
Slobber knocker. You
Don't
like that
Google
one?
that with your safe search off, anybody.
BZ, can you check 2000? What was the numbers between Gore and Bush? I'm just curious to see.
It was like 500 votes.
Yeah, it was right around there. But I'm just curious to see.
I have it with 60%, 68% reported, and Trump has a 65,000 vote lead.
Wow.
Which is nothing.
That is nothing at this point.
In Florida, nothing. And just remember, the other thing in 2000 is, I hate to say this, forgive me, God, but all those old Jews who voted for Pat Buchanan because they hit the wrong hole in the Chad.
Well, yes. Well, and there was a lot of voting issues in Florida for 2000, and hopefully a lot of that's been cleared up. Have you heard anything else? We discussed the Pennsylvania voting issues, and specifically, I believe it was actually Pittsburgh, where a lot of Trump supporters were saying that the card was auto-filling. Have you heard any other ones that we haven't popped out yet, Jeff?
No, I just heard that there were total problems with the machines in North Carolina, 2 districts.
Yeah, so
and I hate the things because New York started with the you fill in the circles, you put it through. So and you have to ask to get the what do you call it? To get the sheet that shows.
Yeah, the actual paper ballot.
Well, it spits out something like a cash register.
Oh, the receipt.
If you the receipt, because I wanted to make sure that he voted the way I voted.
Well, I think that's a big problem. Is you ask for it, and we talked about this just before you came on the air. You asked for the receipt. A lot of people don't. There's assumption that it's going to be okay, and they just walk away. And I'm sure there's other issues. I saw our friend Susan Knowles told this hellacious story of her voting experience in Southern California. And yeah, it's Southern California, but they were actually asking people who were not provisional ballots. California is not an ID state unless you are a provisional ballot. If you're a provisional ballot, you must provide ID. They were asking everybody to present ID as they were going in to vote.
Okay.
Which it's not that they were actually doing something that I'm happy that they were doing. It's just the simple fact of the matter is it was so screwed up that they couldn't follow their own procedure. And that's what bothers me more than anything else. Anytime you start seeing them start to monkey around with their procedures and rules, there's a serious issue. I also want to know what effect the video that came out a few days ago, and I'm going to throw it around the room here. The effect of Obama's interview recently encouraging illegals to vote because there would be no retribution by INS. Did everyone see this?
Sure did.
Yes.
Do you think that actually hurt Hillary Clinton more than it helped? And Jeff, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Clint.
No.
No, none whatsoever.
No, not at all, because, it's how things are reported. And with the mainstream media, Barack Obama could say that people from Mars should be able to vote, or vote twice, and they lap it up. And I'm not joking there.
Right. No, I wish you were, actually.
So no, and it's funny because it's not just that. I wrote something this afternoon about all the WikiLeaks, the best of them.
Right.
And I started out by saying that, you know what? He said that he'd get some, bold stuff that should knock her out of the office, and he never did. And then when I got to the end, I said, wait a second, you know what? He did. But just no one reported it like that.
That's crazy.
Assange, there was stuff there that if it was a Republican...
Oh, they would have blown it up.
He'd be
lynched. He would be drawn and quartered in a public square and lynched with his head on the stake.
Well, and then you look at CNN and Stephanopoulos, who was related to the Snuggleopoulos, if you have kids.
What?
Sesame Street.
First cousins, I believe.
Right? But the thing is that you look at that stuff and you see... And people still watch those channels. People still respect them.
Yes, that's the sad part. And people are still, I don't know why they give any credence to what half those guys say, especially Stephanopoulos. Anyone who even slightly looks at Stephanopoulos knows that he was a right-hand man of the Clinton for years. Sure. It's absolutely crazy.
Press guy.
Danny Butch is reporting from High Plains Pundit, and I screwed up earlier, and he'll never let me forget that now. But from High Plains Pundit, CNN's calling Arkansas too close to call, a state that voted for Republican in every election since '96, outside of Clinton. So that's going to be interesting. And then coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to get 14 more states, including Wisconsin and Michigan.
Well, Wisconsin's going to go to Hillary, so don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Well,
it's even Trump stopped campaigning there. It's not that one's not going to turn.
I'm more focused on Michigan.
I'm more focused on
That's
Michigan
the
also.
one.
I think Michigan and the potential for Michigan is incredible at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
And
with the industry there and everything that's gone, I mean, there is nothing. Even you look at Detroit.
Yep.
I went through Detroit to visit my daughter in Ohio, and there's nothing there
at all.
And old factory. It looked like something out of. Okay, do you know the game Fallout?
I know it very well.
It looked like something out of the game Fallout. It was sad.
And here's the thing too, that Detroit has in the last couple of years started to turn a little bit of a corner. And it all started when that police chief started issuing CCWs on a scale never seen before. And it started to change that tone in Detroit itself. People have realized that after 50 years of the Democrats destroying once the richest city in the world per capita, I think people finally started to realize, and it's a slow shift, but it's starting to shift. I mean, that says a lot about what the Democrats can do over 50 years. If you could take Detroit and even get them to look to the right, never mind move slightly, you've done a lot of damage.
Here's something interesting. The Drudge is indicating that it's projected that 140 million people will vote. Exit polls indicate that 22% of Hispanics are saying that it's their first time voting. And also that the election is going to be decided by evening voters, which is why I and everyone here, and probably you too, Jeff, have been saying, don't listen to anyone, get out and vote.
Yep.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And look, we've been saying that for weeks. And I've been even talking to people who are anti-Trump people. And I'm like, okay, still get out and vote. And we still have, if you're in a place that has an important senatorial race, even if you could take your governor, even if you can take your House and your local district on a state level, if you want to have a conservative switch, make sure you get out there and vote down ticket, especially if I don't agree with voting with your conscience when you have somebody like Hillary on the other side. I just personally...
That's why this election is so incredibly unprecedented.
Yes.
Well, wait a second. I voted for Trump and I was voting with my conscience because Hillary was on the other side.
That was, thank you, because that was an argument I had the other day. Listen, I'm not against third parties, and I tell libertarians this. I told them this after the last election. If you want a third party ticket to do better in the general, start the day after this election and actually make a change. Get a candidate who's ready to go and spend that time building them up, earning money. One of the things the libertarians do is 16 months before the election, all of a sudden they throw somebody up that not many people have really heard of.
Exactly.
Right.
And then they get mad that nobody's taking them seriously. And I talked about this in Freedom Fest. I says, hey, listen, start the day after this general, but don't draw your line in the sand with Hillary standing on the other side. Clint.
Yeah. So, look, I want to address two things. One, you were tossing around the room, do I think it'll help Hillary? Yes, it'll help Hillary because illegals will be freaking voting for her.
Yes.
Now, I just had an interesting. So somebody in chat from Ohio. We have a source in Ohio.
Oh, good, on the ground.
And what Nighthawk said is maybe we should all move to Benghazi where we know Hillary won't bother with us.
Wow,
Well,
insightful.
wait a second. That's what people aren't considering because
Right.
there are old people that said they'd leave the country. Samuel Jackson's going to South Africa. I hope he makes sure there's no mother effing snakes on the plane.
Which there
Sharon's
were.
going to go to Jupiter.
Yeah.
We can all go to the airport and greet Al Sharpton as he leaves. Come on.
High five.
It's good stuff.
Jeff, I already said that if Al Sharpton actually leaves the country, if Donald Trump is elected, then I and the SHR media crew will pitch in to buy his plane ticket.
I'm going to be there. Trust me. I'm going to wear a yarmulke and a tallis, too.
Man, I didn't say I'd actually go to Benghazi. I thought it was funny because she won't send help.
No.
She didn't the first time.
No, she won't now.
And then
Right.
the funniest one of them all, Ruth Bader Ginsburg says she's going to move to New Zealand.
Yes.
And it's like, great. It's another Supreme Court justice we could replace.
Exactly. She's actually helping us out. Plus,
Right.
that would not be a loss to me. In any
She's
way,
going
shape,
there
or
because she
form.
wants to be one of the trolls in one of the new Lord of the Rings movies. Jason Miller in chat says PBS is reporting that the GOP will keep the House.
Yeah, and we were,
Surprise,
And if PBS is reporting that, then
Yeah,
it's got to
that-
be true because they
that's-
do not want to admit that.
That's what I was thinking.
In Florida, Trump 49%, Clinton 47.9% with how much in?
1.9% difference, and it's not saying what percentage it is, but
It was 91 earlier.
It was 91 before, and it just bumped up 1.9% to Trump's lead. That's big. Jeff's trying to crunch some numbers.
Yeah, I'm crunching some numbers. Let's see. Just redo it.
Social media, my friend Katie Grimes, who writes for Flash Report, said Trump is pulling further ahead in Florida. God bless Floribama.
Yeah, exactly. 71% reporting he has. Yeah, that's it.